A very, very, very good morning. And I think we are all specially blessed to have Shri M give us this special time on this beautiful Sunday morning. So on behalf of BLF, the organizers, all of you and myself, thank you, sir. Thank you so, so much. I do believe that we will have a mixed demographic in the audience today. We will have people who are true believers, sadhaks, who practice Kriya, who know everything about Shri M that he has shared with us in the public forum. And on the other end of the spectrum, we may have people who say, I'd love to see this. Maybe it's destiny calling them here. But who is Shri M? And who may not have read any of his books. So it's keeping this diversity of audiences that I have curated a set of questions from all the three demographics, people who know him very well, people who are completely innocent, and people in the middle. And I hope to have traverse some paths of thought in that direction. So it's a curated set of questions. And afterwards, I will give you an email ID. If you have personal questions, you can send it to that email ID, and I can assure you that it will reach him, and he will respond to it as and when his busy schedule permits. So without more ado, let me start the journey, sir. And I wanted to keep this a mix of both wisdom and experiential for the novice and the experienced. So if we could start with, you've had many life-transforming, spiritual, deep experiences in the path that you have traversed in this life, in this world. Could you share with us one such experience which truly transformed you and which is very precious and treasured for you?
Namaskar to you and to all the people here. Yes, there were many such experiences in my life, but if you are looking for one, what transformed a young 8-year-old boy born in Trivandrum in an immigrant Khan household was my meeting with my Ishwarnath Babaji. Because at that time I was young and I did not know much, but at 8 years, the only difference was when I saw the clouds, when I sat down and looked at the clouds, I thought they were the snow-capped Himalayas, but there are no snow-capped mountains in Kerala, you know that. Why that thought occurred, I found out later. But then one day, when I was playing in my garden, after all the friends had gone home, I saw a person standing under the banyan tree, jackfruit tree, chakka. Yeah. And person I've never seen in my life. But I was from young age quite a critical guy, so I thought he must have jumped the compound wall, small wall there. He had matted hair, which I've never seen before. Tall, thin man with only a white cloth tied. So he did this. It's about 6:30, almost getting dark. The normal reaction would be to run because you don't know who he is. But strangely, I went towards him. I was curious. Then he looked at me. Those big eyes, I always remember. And then he asked me a very strange question, what occurred very strange to me. In Hindi, he asked me, even though born and brought up in Trivandrum, at home we spoke Urdu. We did not speak Malayalam. We are 4th-generation settlers. He asked me, kuch yaad aaya? He asked me, do you remember anything? I said, no, I can't remember anything. I only said, nahi. Then he put his hand on my head and said, समय होने पर सब ठीक हो जाएगा. And he said, I still wondered what it was. That placing the hand on the head was the most transforming and the first experience that changed my mind completely, because and he went off. He told me go back, and when I went near the kitchen and turned back, there was nobody there. I don't think it was a vision, it was like...
Felt it.
After that, I became strangely retrospective, meditative. I used to meditate. Nobody taught me at night, midnight. The whole thing started changing and transforming. I think that was one really transforming experience and the first time in my life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So then, that experience led you on another journey, which of course took you to the Himalayas, and those of you who've read the book will, it's a beautiful exposition. Then you came back. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the toughest decision for you at that time after the 3.5 years.
Yes.
You talk about the pain.
Yes.
That you had to go through.
Absolutely.
But then you have traversed a path where you have kept with the deep, intense spiritual practices, while also engaging with all that the modern world has. So this is a unique path which I think 99.99% of the people may not have traversed. From that perspective, I just want you to, today there are people who are householders, there are students, there are professionals. How do they balance these responsibilities with their spiritual practice, especially in this time when mental issues are, so rampant and everybody is going through some challenge or the other? What would your advice be from this path?
I have to say this, that what was the last part of your question? You said you're living in this life and doing everything that everybody does. I beg to differ, I don't. I do only those things that still keep me on the path and not take me away. But there are many things that can be done. Now the question of my coming back arises, because you said after you came back. I did not want to come back. I wanted to live there with Babaji forever, wanted the Himalayas, not have a family. It was his instructions that you should go back, get married, settle down, and see how people in this world live. He said people go to unmarried sannyasis and monks and ask them, oh, this is my problem, how am I? They don't know. They have absolutely no idea what's happening. They are great, but they don't know this
aspect.
So he said, go through it, which was a very difficult thing for me to do, having lived a free life. No agenda. Look at my agenda now. One day Calcutta, one day here, one day Hyderabad. It's horrible. I'm sorry. But I was so happy. So to come back was because of Babaji that I decided to come. And we have time. And he asked me, I told him, Babaji, I don't want to go back. He said, when you first came here after 1 year, I asked you a question. I asked you, what do you think of yourself? I said, I am your puppy dog. I sit here and look at you, like his master's voice. You're saying something, I'm listening. And what did I say? I said, you said, हाँ मेरा कुत्ता तो हो सकता है, मगर ज़्यादा दुम मत हिलाना है. Don't wag your tail too much. So he said, now you don't wag your tail, you do what I have to. I'm not like that. He was terrible that way, very tough. So I came back. But I must say that in those years I was with Babaji for 3 years, I actually was trained in such a way that even when I came down to the earth, to the ordinary matters of life, these are not ordinary, I mean normal, I could handle this without deviating from my path. I think it is possible. You know, in the ancient days, they had brahmacharya, then grahastha, then vanaprastha, then sannyas. You know that brahmacharya period through which they passed, they learned how to handle the next thing also. How many people jump straight to sannyas? Rare. Right?
True.
So, like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, before you get into the worldly life, it's like opening a jackfruit. Apply oil in your hands so that when you open the jackfruit, it doesn't stick to your hands. So the oil had already been applied.
Perfectly.
So I could manage. And I think that oil is not so rare. People are really not willing to change.
Yeah.
They may give me love letters every day, but they're not willing to change. This is the biggest problem. So if that can be altered, it's possible to do it. So with my mind on the highest and my five senses indulging in the normal life, I could balance between the two, and that was the message that Babaji wanted to convey, that you can balance between the two. It's not required that you should live in the Himalayas or it.
So, do you feel they should have that inner discipline to spend some time? Because you always emphasize on this importance of silence and stillness in your messages, how that is important to keep you grounded.
It is very important. At least once in a month, even if it's once in 2 months, take off for a few days, at least 4, 5 days, 3 days, away from all that you do. Shut off your phone, or if you are rich, throw it into the dustbin and sit quietly. Enjoy. You don't even have to meditate. Get away from this. And then go back. You will see how renewed you are and how much energy is there for you to continue with life. So it's important that you have something that you do daily in which your mind is engaged spiritually, so that when you go back into the world after these 3-4 days of rest, you are fully charged. Not only that, even in worldly matters, your brain works properly because you're not disturbed. It's not neither expecting anything. It is sthita prajna. The mind state is very tranquil. And a tranquil mind always thinks properly. So I think that's what I wanted to say.
So, a little bit in the every day, and maybe a little longer, once or twice.
Busy executives go off somewhere saying that for some 2 days I'm not doing anything, I'm relaxing. Only thing is, then they usually get absorbed in the spirit, but that which comes in the bottle. So next day we have trouble.
Yeah.
So.
From wisdom, I want you to go back to an experience, sir. Today if you Google the net, you find many people who say that they met Mahavatar Babaji. They had this, meeting with him, this, that, etc. And it's quite common to see so many, and then there are podcasts around it and all that. And yet, you, who are from that parampara, who you call Shri Guru, are very reticent when you talk about that particular personage and your interaction with them. I was hoping that you would be able to indulge us and share one of your experiences with the great Mahavatar and some message that he has for us in today's world.
Now I have to open this topic very reluctantly, because today Sri Guru Babaji, who Yogananda Paramahamsa renamed as Mahavatar Babaji, has become, what do you call that?
Everybody,
No.
fad.
Not fad. Kind of an internet's special character.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. Yeah. So there everybody is saying that somebody said, I'm going to the Himalayas. Then she came, oh, I met Mahavatar Babaji. I said, wonderful. But please give me Kriya. Then why didn't you ask him? So anyway, then somebody goes and says, Babaji gave me this Kriya. He met me in Rishikesh. What is the Kriya? I listened to it. It's not Kriya. So, at least what we know. So, it's become like a idol which everybody uses. If today, tomorrow you want to attract people on the internet, just say, oh, Babaji came when I was sleeping and hover on my bed and you're done. Babaji doesn't come like that.
Yeah,
It's not that easy. He chooses whom he wants to see and when and so on. In my life, whole life, if you say physical meeting, I have only had two instances in this life, because I believe there are past.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Let's not go into the past, because I cannot prove it to anybody.
Read The Journey Continues.
I cannot prove it to anybody. So, this life. The first time I think I saw Babaji was in Rishikesh on the way to Nilkant. When Babaji, Maheshwarnath Babaji, who was his disciple, and we were having a discussion on Kriya. So he told me there are 22 qualifications, which if you have, you can give Kriya. And I was saying, no, please find somebody else, because I don't think I'll find these 22 qualifications anywhere, hardly possible. And I was arguing, bring it down, make something possible for people. We were going on to Babaji, he was always tough. He said, don't talk about things you don't understand. Oh, shut up. And so, I said, oh. Then somebody came from the corner. We don't know where he came from. I can't say he materialized from air or anything. Just around the corner somebody came, very bright looking, youngish person with long hair. And suddenly, Maheshwarnath Babaji, who would not bow before anybody, I've never seen him. I've seen him meet Mahamandaleshwar. Suddenly he did Shashtang. So I said, so I also did Shashtang. Then we got up, and this young person put his hand around my shoulders. And then he said to my son, "Mere balak jo bol raha hai, sun lo." What this young man is saying, please listen to him. And then he turned and walked, and I thought I will run behind him, because I thought this must be Babaji. Maheshwarnath Babaji said, "Ruko, you cannot catch him." So even that's all I know. One. Second time in my life, I actually saw him when Maheshwarnath Babaji attained Samadhi. I did all the work, nobody was allowed. And just before he closed his eyes and stopped all movement inside, Babaji came and put my hand and his hand together and said, "Now you do the work."
So passing the baton almost.
These are the only two times that I can, in this life, say that I have met Babaji. After that, no. Not even today. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And there is no need. You don't do Kriya to see Babaji. After 6 months of Kriya, people come to me, "Oh, I want to see Babaji." I said, "I don't have a license to say okay to him." You can't drag him down to such cheap limits, It's a presence.
Yeah.
More than a person, is what I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's very, very profound. I also want to take your thoughts to this whole idea. Today, many, within inverted commas, spiritual leaders talk about miracles and, materializing and, all of those things in today's world. Do you think there is a place for that? Do you think it is necessary? I mean, you have written in your books on how, spiritual growth can actually get stunted if you get into some of those things. But why? How? Any thoughts?
If people are truly interested in spiritual progress, they will have nothing to do with these matters. I know some podcast, I did something very funny, which the man who was talking to me almost fell off from the chair. But I didn't do that to prove that I could do it. I did it only to send a message that it's not a big deal. That if somebody does it, that doesn't mean he's God. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Which is why I did it, not because I don't attract people doing such things. It's not interesting. People should be seriously interested in spiritual development. And that has nothing, if you read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which are considered the standard textbook on the practice of yoga, meditation and so on, you will find there are 4 chapters. Samadhipada first. Then Sadhanapada, practice. Then comes Vibhutipada. And then Kaivalyapada. Who was that?
Thank you.
Now, usually people get stuck with this Vibhutipada. And once you're stuck there, you may take several lives to recover from it and get back. It's like I'm going to Varanasi in a train, and on the way I see a sweet shop in a railway station. I get down, I get so caught up, the train is gone. I have to wait for the next train to come. And spiritual has nothing to do with all these things. It's to do with how to become a sthita prajna, how to touch the source of all energy. And if you touch the source of all energy, what will you do with these trinkets? This is why I don't indulge. That day, because before the podcast, this guy said, oh, somebody did like this. I didn't say anything, I just kept quiet. Then I said, look, stay with me for 1 week and you will be able to do it, but you are not spiritually advanced. Yeah, but there's one miracle which happens every day. A small drop of sperm from a male falls into the Agni Kunda of a female, and out of that is created a thinking, walking, speaking human being. What greater miracle can there be? Totally. You put a seed on it grows into beautiful. Is there a bigger miracle than that? And somebody is so depressed, is on the deathbed and is suffering, and then you go and talk to him and you relieve him and he says, now I will die peacefully. Is there a better miracle than that? I think that is what one should think of.
Yeah, thank you. This is a question that somebody had wanted to share with you, so I want to read it out. It is said that without grace, spiritual progress is elusive. One may start very well, but fall off the path. Do you agree with this? Why does this happen? Can we invoke it, or is it something beyond our control?
I agree with it, but with a corollary. The corollary is this. If there is no grace, nobody would even think of the spiritual path. You cannot, because there are hundreds and thousands of people on this earth. Only few people out of that think of spiritual fulfillment. So why is this so? Because there is no grace. If there is grace, then only the interest will be created. After the interest is created, when grace is something which is everywhere. It's not as if it's one person, or it's a universal Isha Vashyamidam Sarvam, the Supreme Being pervades everything here. That is grace, okay? The problem is, through our idea of grace, we keep all our doors and windows closed. We don't allow to open them. If you can open the windows and doors, but you cannot still say the breeze has to blow now. Can you? But what if the breeze blows when your windows and doors are shut? You don't get it. So all sadhana, all earning, sincere earning for spiritual is cleaning the windows, keeping them open, cleaning the floors. The wind blows, the dust doesn't come. That's much we can do. The rest is grace. And it's not from one person, or sometimes some people are spiritually advanced, so they act as conduits to the grace, but it is everywhere. I think with a sincere heart, if one wishes and keeps the door open without covering it, without closing it with our ego-built ideas, then it is there. Even the very fact so many people are sitting here listening, there is grace, otherwise nobody will want to come. It's a nice Sunday, right? The Bangalore club is not far off.
So as a segue to that, what if somebody feels they are stagnating on this path? What would your advice be? Any tips, any advice?
Yes, you should consult someone who you believe sincerely to be a spiritual person, and then try to figure out why the stagnation. Why the stagnation takes place. There were many reasons why stagnation. Not one. Could be that you're not practicing regularly. Could be that the thought to practice regularly is not coming into your mind. Could be that you are caught up in such circles that you're not able to come out of it. The Bhagavad has a wonderful statement in the beginning. Because human beings live in society. We are all society beings. So we will do exactly what our group is doing. So it's important to build a group of people around you, in the society especially, who are spiritually moving forward, who are spiritually progressing. And that that is called a sadhu satsanga. The Bhagavad says if you don't have sadhu satsanga, naturally you will have dursanga. And when you have dursanga, then your spiritual movement will be arrested. Right? So, if somebody feels that one is stagnating, sincerely pray early in the morning, please bring back that energy which I had before. And if you see someone who you think is genuinely spiritual, which means is not asking for your checkbook, then ask for help. And I'm sure you'll move forward. First thing is not get depressed when you are stagnated. Everything is ups and downs, including spiritual life. So it is down, it's going to come up. Every hill shall be brought low and every valley shall be filled. Jesus Christ. So when you are low, you will go up. When you are up, expect that sometime one may come down. This applies also to spiritual life.
So does the ego itself kind of
acts as a barrier? It acts as a barrier. It always, the ego is a very difficult thing to even detect. If somebody tells you, I have no ego, 100%, it's a lie. It's impossible. Even I have an ego. Just think if it's a good ego or a bad ego. When I say good ego, constructive and not destructive. The bad ego is always destructive. There are people who cannot go to sleep without having committed something which hurts others during the day. I know people. Now, how do you progress spiritually? Tell me. So, in the night when you go to sleep, keep a note. What good things have I done today? So, your ego becomes good, which means from the tamasic and rajasic mode, the ego transforms into sattvic mode. That ego will remain, because without ego you cannot do anything. But it will be a purified ego. It will disappear when you die, physically.
Thank you. So on that same path, One of the key themes that you keep talking about is the concept of realizing the self. Like you said, touching that. This, for many, this term may sound a little abstract or elusive. Is there any way you can explain what this means?
If you want to know, sorry, you finish?
And to make, because it's such a central part of your philosophy.
If you want to have a proper understanding of to know yourself, nobody in contemporary times has put it even clearer than me, this concept than Ramana Maharshi. Not the frauds who live around Tiruvannamalai, I'm not talking about that. Ramana Maharshi. Now, Ramana Maharshi, if you read even a little bit, his simple statement was, Deham, Naham, Koham, Soham. If I am not the body, then who am I? I am that. So, to know the self, meaning not the ego, but the consciousness because of which the ego also has the capacity to function. That is in everyone. It's not in the Himalayas, it is not in anywhere. It's in every human being. So for that, I suggest that one should reach the Upanishads. Upanishads are crystal clear on this, and they have been there from time immemorial. One of the earliest writings on the spiritual topic. The Upanishads will help you to figure out who you really are in contrast to who you think you are. Now this is very, very important. Also please read some of the Maharshi talked very little. So whatever he has said, it's been recorded somewhere, read it. And then you will discover that the self which we seek is the true self, which is our inner consciousness, and not the self which we are identified with, including the ego. It's an internal journey rather than an external journey.
Yeah. And these are tools, these readings and the
Reading, meditating, inquiring, practice of sadhana, all these are ways and modes to reach the essence of your being. That is the main thing. When you touch the essence of your being, it is the same as that which is everywhere. Therefore, in all the people who are sitting here, in the depths of their heart, when I say heart, not the organ that pumps blood, in the depths of their consciousness, the pure supreme reality exists. So they're all walking temples of God. And therefore, even if they don't believe it, it's okay, they will come down to it some point. Look, we can build temples. Here, all are walking, speaking temples. And here inside sits the divine, in the heart of everyone. So, if you keep this in mind, then your consciousness will transcend the ordinary.
Thank you. I want to take you back to the experiential. In The Journey Continues, how many of you have read The Journey Continues? Yeah. So that's a far...
It's a crazy book.
So you talk about astral travel. And Babaji has taught you how to. You're sitting, and then this gentle tug, you say, and it, you are able to travel. But without his grace, you wouldn't have reached. I think you reach Mount Kailash, and you go through the crevice, and you see the Saptarshis. Many decades later, I think you also led a group of satsangis to Kailash. Just like we said, when you Google Param Guru, you get lots of things. Today, if you Google Mount Kailash, there is lots of material around it. But you are somebody who have literally seen it inside and outside. Can you throw some light on what is happening there? Is it Shambhala? Is it extraterrestrial? What are your thoughts?
Now you got me. Well, I cannot deny that there's something special about Kailash. May not be all the stories that go around, but there is something very special in Kailash. It is my experience. And deep inside Kailash, there are some beings living and so on. Kailash is worshipped not only by the Hindus, because they say that Shiva sits there. The Buddhists say that Avalokatishvara is sitting there. And there is a pre-Buddhist religion in Tibet called the Bonpos. They say that their founder descended from Kailash. So at one point, even today maybe, in some way, it's a kind of connection between this world, something beyond. I'm not saying spiritual or astral, but see, look, it's so silly to think that in this wide universe there is only this little earth, which is like a speck of dust. There are many other worlds. Kailash at one time used to be prominently the connection between these. So it's been accorded the greatest of respect. When you say Shiva is sitting there, it means it is a seat of spiritual greatness. That's what it, not that Shankara is sitting there with a snake. No. Shivam, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham, Shivoham, said Shankara Vishnu. I'm of the form of consciousness. That center from where it came is in Kailash. This much I can tell you. The rest, unfortunately, I cannot tell you. Because we are not ready for it yet. And as far as Sambala and Gyan Ganj and all that is concerned, of course there are some places in the Himalayas where all great teachers come and go, the Babaji sitting there and so on. But it has been bandied about too much and people build their own imagination. So one has to be a little bit careful. But yes, certainly we cannot rule out that there are pockets in this world where great beings meet. Because they don't have a meet, naturally they won't meet in Trivandrum Club or Bangalore Club. Yeah. So they need a club, right? Yeah. So there is a place. This much I can tell you at the moment. Because we also go by some rules, which at the improper time to say would be like, it gets a reverse effect from reality.
So, when you talk about realized souls, there are many realized souls. You talked about Saptarshis, you talk about your divine experience with the Nagas. Now, if the ultimate, like Ramana Maharshi said, is the merging with the Brahman, what is the purpose of these souls still remaining alive?
To take you there. They are hovering around mainly to lead you there. There is no other function.
So they have almost sacrificed their bliss.
They have sacrificed their freedom and they're with us. Look, it's like this. We see a human being only as you see him physically, right? Face, body. Who knows who is this? Nobody knows. So, of course, if I say that, then it becomes very mystified, so I don't want to say it. But I can tell you that there are great beings still wandering around on this earth, maybe in human bodies. And what is their function? To lead you gradually to spiritual progress. That's why they are around. They do. There are, not that there are hundreds, but there are. And also you said self-realized souls. Now, self-realized is a word which is bandied about quite a bit. We have to be very careful when we use the word. The first self-realization is to realize who you are as you are now. And then figure out how to change and become what you really are. That is the ultimate realization. It starts with realizing what are my weaknesses, where am I, how to improve. This is the first step in self-realization.
So from to. So since this is a lit fest, let me also ask you one more thing. What inspired you to start writing? You know, you have so many things you're balancing.
I write when
When do you find time to write?
if you want to do something that you really love to do, you have to find time. There is no way you can. But I usually go away to places like Bandipur or Coorg or sometimes to the Himalayas. There I sit down quietly when I have nothing to do. Especially there aren't people coming to pull my legs, you know. So I sit down quietly and then I sit down and write. See, the first book I wrote, of course, was the autobiography, my autobiography. I wrote it reluctantly because I did not want most people to know what my life was. Babaji said, write it. So I wrote it. And so it came like a flow. I did not even organize myself. And I used to scribble. I cannot sit before a computer, laptop, because when I look at the screen, my mind also goes blank. So I used to scribble and had a big bundle of scribbles, which somebody said, I can read this. Nobody could have really read it, but she said, I can decipher it. I said, read. She read. So I said, you type it now. So this is how the book came into being. It was a flow. Since then, whenever I have an idea for a new book, it occurs. Many years I don't get time to do it. And then one day I find, now, then I sit down and I do it.
So in one.
No, I do it, then it stops. Then it comes back at some other point. You know, interesting. I write well only when I'm alone or when I'm in a place where there are a lot of trees and mountains and rivers. It could be a wildlife resort. Could be. Or in the Himalayas. You are inspired by the animals because they don't come and talk to you, right?
Leave you.
So that's, so not as if I wrote the autobiography one stretch. I wrote in many parts when I was in a quiet spot and then I gathered them together. And that's why some publishers also say that, can you finish this book and give it to us? I said, I can't. I can write only when it's possible to write. I can't tell you, in 1 year I can give you the book. Not possible. So that's how it is. It's an inner mechanism. But if you ask me, is there a style in your writing? You would be surprised. No spiritual writer, nobody. My style, which I like to follow, is Ernest Hemingway. No nonsense, direct sentences. It's like AK-47, tuck, 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 go. No going around in circles. Be straight and honest. In fact, before I read the autobiography, the last book I was reading, I was in Chile. In Santiago was the old man in the sea.
But if you see your stories, apparent stories, but with very, very deep messages, whether it's Shunya or whether it is Homecoming.
That is fiction.
But the direct approach is very visible there.
Yes, yes. Because that I owe to Hemingway.
Yeah. It's very, very visible there. Yeah.
Except that his spirit was in the bottle and mine is not. That's it.
I want to go again to a little deeper thing. So, you know...
How many more do you have?
I have kept a cache.
Okay.
Depending on time, we'll depend and, you know, these
we have 16 more minutes, I think.
Yeah. So I think we can ask this.
Sure,
this is a little... I may not even understand it, but somebody who follows you very much wanted me to ask this, so I'm asking this on their behalf. The question is, the waking world disappears in the dream state.
Yes.
The dream world disappears...
That's not what I'm saying, fact.
Yeah. The dream world disappears in deep sleep.
Yes.
So all this is stated to be mithya.
No.
And impermanent, no?
I wouldn't say mithya. I would say relatively mithya.
Relatively.
Because when you're actually there, it is not mithya. When you're in another state, it is mithya.
Mithya. But if that is so, then why are people bothered about Nagaloka, Brahmaloka, all this which you have? Because if they are impermanent, why not just go to what Ramana Maharshi
Actually, that is what people should be doing.
straight to the self?
Straight to the self. Always, we should be go to Nagaloka. We are human beings. We don't have to go. It so happened that in my life I was exposed to these matters, so I wrote it. There are people who come now and say that, oh, I am doing Naga worship. I said, so? What is there in Kerala? There is a lot of Naga worship anyway. No, I want to go to Nagaloka. Man, you're wasting your time. Why would you go to Nagaloka? There's something much beyond that. Right? So I wrote it because I've gone through it, I've seen it, and it is there. But that Nagaloka people have to take advice from a physical being on this earth, like Maheshwarnath Babaji, shows what? That he has reached the highest of consciousness, so therefore he is greater than anybody else.
And still staying in a body form
Yes.
to guide.
Yes.
Yeah, but sometimes, people get caught up.
People get caught up, not sometimes, always. Unfortunately. We need to extricate them from, but you can't. It's difficult. I'm trying very hard. After many years, my hair has gone grey, my beard. Keep trying.
So, you talk about your 3.5 years with so much love. In fact, sometimes I feel that when you came back, this became your karma bhumi. And
Very true.
that is your... can you share with us 2 or 3 insights for the modern man and woman caught up in the daily thing, which your Babaji gave you, which you could share with us as insights? Any insights for us to live, practical insights to live in this world?
Yeah. One thing was, when I first went there to Babaji, in our household, where I go from, we were not even allowed to enter the kitchen. My dad, till he died, didn't know how to make a cup of tea. I was similar, almost. We were boys, not allowed to get out. And I went there. Babaji said I thought he's going to start with the Upanishad. First thing he started with cutting vegetables. I said, what am I doing here? Cutting vegetables, cooking, making chapatis. And if a hand-made roti was not round, you would throw it off. Make a round roti. I said one day, Babaji, why are you putting me to work? I can go and bring food from somewhere. Can do some bhiksha business. Why? He said, if you cannot make a perfectly round roti, what Upanishad will you learn? And when I cut the vegetable, some people think all this is not important, I have to just sit. There are people, young people who say, we are going to give up everything and come to Madanapalli and stay with you. I said, for what? What will you do there?
I'm not there.
See, the most important thing, even in self-realization or spiritual realization, is to make your mind and your body disciplined. And that discipline involves the things in this earth. You don't have to discipline the Brahman. You cannot. This world, what can you do? How can you lead a disciplined life? This is very, very important. So, these are some of the inputs that I got from Babaji. Second was, he would not compromise on my not practicing Kriya regularly. No compromise. And third, he taught me how to control my hunger when there was no food available. Sometimes in wandering, we never got food for a day, 2. He hardly ate anything, but I was hungry. He used to sense that. Somehow after some time food would be provided, but I learned to live with that. If food doesn't come, it's all right. If it is raining and you don't have an umbrella, it's okay. Rain is going to stop, it's not going to go on forever. And I walked everywhere. He never got into a vehicle, so I walked everywhere. And then, of course, the spiritual practices that he taught me, including Kriya. These are some of the important things I learned with Babaji. And the extraordinary love and affection he had for me, which I don't think I deserve it. But he did. Because I left my home, my mother, my relatives, my friends, and here was somebody who was father, mother, friend, all rolled up into one. Gangotri Glacier, he used to walk barefoot, no shawl even, only the white cloth. But every now and then, muffler ले लिया बाबा जी, टोपी लगा लिया बाबा जी, जूते पहन लिया बाबा। Oh, he said, तुम मेरे जैसा करोगे तो मर जाओगे.
I think that's pure love.
Because he said, I'm getting you ready for a purpose. I don't want you to conk now.
Yeah. So
9 minutes and 21.
23 seconds. So, therefore, when you were almost conking it in the Himalayas once with that very, very high temperature, and Babaji was literally not physically around you at that time, you were saved by a being. You can give many names to it. And which has also become quite famous now on the net. If all of you, many of you may.
Thanks to Ranbir.
Thanks to Ranbir Allahabadia. So, did you discuss with Babaji when he came back what happened? And what was his explanation?
He very openly told me that it was a being, not a human being. He said, यहाँ के लोग उसको कुछ नाम से उसको बोलते हैं, मगर वो मनुष्य नहीं है. That much he told me. And he said they are very wise. People unnecessarily afraid of them. They are very wise. All stories people spread, took away children and ran out. Said nothing happened like that. And he said that before this guy came and helped me, whoever it was, he had already had a conversation with him.
With him? And did you have any chance to meet the being again later? The same being later?
No, never. In fact, at one moment, I thought that I was hallucinating because of my temperature. But the thing put into my mouth was not a hallucination, it was a real thing.
And at the right time?
At the right time.
So now this is again a lit fest. So I want to do one question I want to ask you. You have written across many genres. You've written autobiographical, you've written wisdom, you've written short stories, you've written the beautiful Conversation, which is the latest book as a friend. Is there another one in the autobiographical genre which is there in your mind, which is likely to come?
Might be.
Might be.
Might be. At the moment, I have something on my mind which I'm working on, but slightly autobiographical, my experiences with somebody. Not totally. It's more of a philosophical discussion. I'm working on a book called The Upanishads and J. Krishnamurti. Now, I think I'm always almost at the end of it. When I finish that, the last part is autobiographical. My personal experiences with this person, with this being. And the first part is about the Upanishads and why did I write Upanishads and Krishnamurti? Because Upanishads were first, then came Krishnamurti. So, yes, but apart from that, I have in my mind a little bit of purely autobiographical hasn't solidified yet, not materialized yet. It's somewhere going around my brain.
Because stories sometimes are really the greatest masters.
True, true.
Isn't it?
Yes, that's why the Srimad Bhagavatam is such an important text, because it gives you the entire wisdom of the Brahma Sutras in small stories. So people will read the stories and then they will grasp.
Like this self-sufficiency.
Yes.
Cooking.
Yes.
Or living.
Yes.
All of those are actually deep learnings.
I know people who think they are deeply spiritual, they will not even make a cup of tea. I'm not saying you should. They'll get the wives to make a cup of tea.
Yeah. So that's why, it's a fervent request that if you can put your autobiographical lens at some stage, we'll all be waiting eagerly.
I'll try. Now it has become like a big circus for me. Go here, go there. Tomorrow I'm going to Hyderabad. I told you.
Yeah.
Then I come back and I'm going to Kodungalur of all places. And it goes on like that. So when I get a little bit of time, I do sit down and marshal my thoughts and write a few sentences in a notebook and keep them ready. And then I compile it.
So just off the top of your head, what is your favorite book? Which is your favorite book?
My favorite book, there is no book that
No, of the ones you've written.
Huh?
Of the ones you have written.
Oh, my books. I don't know, really. Maybe autobiography is my favorite book because there I have opened my mind somewhat and expressed my thoughts. Also because it refers to Babaji. People call me M. I'm very happy because M is also Maheshwarnath Babaji's name.
Also Manav, you say.
Huh?
Manush.
Manav, of course. Manav, all
Madhu.
my friends are here, they know that I'm a Manav. But
Yeah, it's
this
also.
Maheshwarnath Babaji's name begins with Ma. So that is the thing. That's why I don't mind when people call me M.
And which do you feel for new novices, which should be the first book they should read of yours?
My book, the autobiography.
Autobiography. And which is a must-read is also the autobiography?
After the autobiography, you can read The Journey Continues.
The Journey.
But don't miss the Upanishad. The 3 books on the Upanishad, they are very, very important.
Yeah.
Other all fiction, so I don't want to advertise.
But they are very hard-hitting fiction.
Shunya.
Some of them are very hard-hitting.
Shunya is very close to Purna. The only difference between the 2 words, the Buddhists use the word Shunya. The Vedantins use the word Purna. Actually, Purna and Shunya are not different. They are the same.
Oh.
Because it's called Shunya because it is not a thing, that's all. It's not nothing, it's no thing.
And I think one of your favorite shlokas is Purnamidam.
Of course. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Avashishya. So all are Purna.
So on this beautiful Sunday morning, we have 2 minutes.
Yes.
Your last message for this audience at this time.
Last message in 2 minutes, I don't know how, but do not give too much importance to the person, but to the teaching.
To the teaching.